Subcommittee on Energy and Environment will come to order. Pursuant to notice, the Subcommittee on Energy and Environment meets today to consider the following measure. H.R. 2484, the Harmful Algal Blooms and Hypoxia Research and Control Amendments Act of 2011. We'll now proceed with the markup, beginning with open statements, and I will begin. Harmful algal blooms affect nearly every state in the U.S., and the complexity in understanding and responding to these events has eclipsed our current research and response structure. As part of an effort to address this need, we're marking up H.R. 2484, the Harmful Algal Bloom and Hypoxia Research and Control Amendments Act of 2011. This legislation is based on the discussion draft that was the subject of a subcommittee hearing at the beginning of June. The changes from the discussion draft to this afternoon's bill, reflect comments received during the hearing and through discussions with the agencies and other relevant stakeholders in the intervening weeks. H.R. 2484 reauthorizes the Harmful Algal Blooms and Hypoxia Research and Control Act of 1998. There are a number of research programs related to harmful algal blooms and hypoxia already in existence, authorized by several existing laws. However, in order to administer these programs, an umbrella structure is evolved to manage the disparate activities. H.R. 2484 is supportive of this umbrella program and directs the task force to maintain it, and instructs the Undersecretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmosphere, who is also the administrator of NOAA, to carry out a series of activities through the program. Now, one thing we learned from our hearing is that people who are seeking assistance when they have an HAB problem have had serious difficulties finding useful and relevant information. H.R. 2484 instructs the Undersecretary and the Administrator to maintain an electronic information clearinghouse to aid with the dissemination of information about freshwater and marine harmful algal blooms and hypoxia. Also, it requires the Undersecretary and the Administrator to develop a mechanism to ensure quality and cost-effective toxin standards for comparative research. Now, the committee print we discussed in June contained an additional 10 reports from what you see in the bill before you. I believe that this single comprehensive approach is simpler and more efficient. Furthermore, with each report estimated to cost approximately $300,000, we'll be eliminating about $3 million worth of reporting requirements, which frees up significant resources for additional research and response activities. Finally, H.R. 2484 provides NOAA with an authorization of $18 million for each fiscal year from 2012 to 2015, a level slightly below FY 2010 levels. It also directs the Administrator of EPA to utilize up to $3 million of existing funding for each fiscal year from 2012 to 2015 to carry out the authorized provisions in the Act. H.R. 2484 started out from a version of a House bill passed in the 111th Congress. I understand that there have been positive collaborations on this effort between majority and minority staff, and I thank them all for that. And I hope that such collaboration will continue and increase as we move through the legislative process. I will urge the support of all the members of the subcommittee for this bill, and I will leave my statement at that and insert the rest in the record, as we will like to get going before votes are called. I now recognize Mr. Miller for 5 minutes to present his opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In June, this subcommittee did hear expert witnesses on the rapid overproduction of algae and how that can have devastating effects on aquatic plant and animal life, as well as human health. Unfortunately, despite years of research on harmful algal blooms, HABs, and hypoxia, hypoxia is on the rise as our HABs are affecting more of our coastlines and inland waterways than ever. Just last month, the senior senator from Oklahoma, Senator Inhofe, a member of the other body, and a frequent participant in debates about environmental policy, was made deathly sick, he said, by swimming in a toxic algal outbreak in a lake in Oklahoma. Recognizing the growing threat, we began work on the reauthorization of the Harmful Algal Bloom and Hypoxia Research and Control Act in the last Congress. I recall that there was a helpful acronym for that. With the bill ultimately passing the House but stalling in the Senate being where all ideas go to die. In some regards, today is a continuation of that effort, and as with that bill, this bill before us directs NOAA to implement research strategies and action plans so we can understand better and respond better to the harmful blooms and hypoxia events. NOAA and the research community have made notable strides in advancing our understanding of harmful algae, and under intense budget constraints, They have managed to devise a range of innovative solutions. The question for us is, when will we stop paying lip service to the problem, take it seriously, and put our money where our mouth is? Scientific research and practicable response strategies don't come free, and oyster farmers, swimming senators, and all of the rest of us expect more than that. But given the importance of the research to the Chesapeake Bay in particular, I'm surprised that this bill does not even at a minimum sustain the funding at its current level. Despite properly acknowledging the risk of HABs, the bill makes even further cuts to an already struggling program, actually rewinding program to funding to less than the 2008 levels. I look forward to the debate today, the discussion today about this bill, but I hope that it will not be that we give lip service only to the importance of research and fail to provide the funds necessary or authorize the funds necessary to do it. The research community and the populations they serve have made it clear that they do need this bill, and that it is important that we pass this legislation that will be helpful to them in response to the problem. Right now, I fear with the funding issue, this bill does not do that. And Mr. Harris, before we begin, before we bring this bill for consideration, I do have a parliamentary inquiry.
Go ahead.
I understand that the protocols of the House, the rules of the House and of this committee does not allow any new authorization without having those authorizations offset. And I understand that this bill offsets the appropriations or the authorization with reference to Section 9B. In Section 9B, that under Section 282 of the Environmental Research Development and Demonstration Authority Act of 1981, the administrator may utilize up to $3 million to carry out the authorized activities under this act. The 1981 Act was an authorization for 1981 only, so that authorization has now expired for more than 30 years. I assume that when the rules require that there be an offsetting authorization, that it be an existing authorization, not one that has existed at some point in the past, 30 years ago or 50 years ago. Is that the rule, that there just must be some offset regardless of whether it's in existence now? What is the current rule that must be offset before we can consider a bill?
I thank the gentleman for raising the issue. The current we have used the current spending in the program, current appropriations of the program, as the baseline from which to operate. But the issue you bring up is the authorization with regards to coming from the Act in 1981. The language as drafted clarifies that funding for these activities comes from the amount that are being made available for the Clean Water Act science and technology activities at EPA currently. Despite the fact that this account has not been authorized since 1981, clean water research activities continue to receive funds through the appropriations process for the science and technology research activities at EPA, which did receive $815 million for FY 2011 and $848 million in FY 2010. Clean water research activities received, specifically clean water research activities received $62 million in FY 10. This bill would allow EPA to use up to $3 million of those funds as well toward activities in this bill. This bill is a good faith effort to direct existing dollars, which are being spent currently, which are being appropriated for this office, to activities that this committee views as vital to the environment and clean water. Now, we have worked with the Congressional Budget Office and will continue to work with the Congressional Budget Office to examine appropriate spending for these activities based on actual agency estimates, and will continue to work on this legislation as we move forward through the process to ensure that the funds are being allocated from the appropriate sources.
Further question, Mr. Chairman, are you then saying that there have been appropriations based upon an authorization that has not been in effect for more than 30 years?
That appears to be what's going on with the authorizations. That's right, with the appropriations.
So the rules do say match up an authorization to an authorization. But you are saying that you understand, even though there is not an effective authorization now and has not been for 30 years, there continue to be appropriations based upon a 30-year-old, out-of-date, ineffective authorization.
Well, that does appear to be the way it works because there are general authorities under which monies can be appropriated.
That may be true, but it certainly is not what appears to be in the rule. Perhaps we can consider this point further when this bill comes before the full committee.
Absolutely, and that was our intention, to continue working through that process, and we'll make sure we clarify that before it comes.
Although
to the
the
full
protocols do say that a bill cannot be considered until there's an offsetting authorization.
Thank you very much. Without objection, all member opening statements will be placed in the record at this point. We'll now consider H.R. 2484, the Harmful Algal Blooms and Hypoxia Research and Control Amendments Act of 2011. Without objection, I ask unanimous consent that the bill is considered as read and open to amendment at any point, and that members proceed with amendments in the order listed on the roster. So ordered. Are there any amendments to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
The first amendment on the roster is the amendment offered by Mr. McNerney, and the clerk shall report the amendment.
Amendment number 367, amendment to H.R. 2484, offered by Mr. McNerney of California.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading. Without objection, so ordered. Before recognizing the gentleman to explain his amendment, I want to let the gentleman know we're going to accept his amendment and that we would be happy to include your statement in the record at this point. Is that acceptable to the gentleman?
Mr. Chairman, I have a fairly short statement, and I certainly appreciate the hard work that the committee has done, the majority staff, and it's a bipartisan issue. So with that, I guess I'll forego my statement.
Well, thank you very much. I want to thank the gentleman for his amendment, and we do accept the amendment. Are there any other amendments? Hearing none, the question is on the bill, H.R. 2484, the Harmful Algal Blooms and Hypoxia Research and Control Amendments Act of 2011, as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chairman, the ayes have it. I'll now recognize myself to offer a motion. I move that the subcommittee favorably report the bill H.R. 2484 as amended to the full committee. Furthermore, I move that staff be instructed to prepare the subcommittee legislative report and make necessary technical and conforming changes, and that the chairman take all necessary steps to bring the bill H.R. 2484 as amended before the full committee for consideration. The question is on the motion to report the bill as amended. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the bill is favorably reported. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. I move that members may have 2 subsequent calendar days in which to submit supplemental, minority, or additional views on the measure. Without objection, so ordered. This concludes our subcommittee markup. The chairman declares the subcommittee adjourned.